All right, we should be recording now. So, as I was saying, what I want to talk about tonight is something that it's been on my mind on what I'll call the philosophy of job search. And let me kind of highlight what I'm speaking about here. And maybe you've seen this issue too, is I sometimes deal with folks who seem to have a failure to launch when it comes to job search. So it could be exhibited in, just strictly applying online or endlessly fiddling with their resume or, gosh, any one of 100 other distractions that seem to contribute to somebody's job search. And it feels like progress, but at the end they get really frustrated because there hasn't been any results, right? And, oftentimes I'll be sitting there trying to say, okay, well, let's talk about this tactic. Let's talk about this thing. Let's talk about this. When really what it is we need to be talking about the philosophy and the mindset. So let me give you an example today. And that's what kind of really brought this up is, and I won't mention his name, but good guy, great veteran. And he's very, he's got a high EQ. He's highly emotionally aware, right? And so he winds up, maybe like a lot of you guys have done, is working for a boss that's less than that, maybe a lot less than that, right? And so, he got made to feel wrong or bad or not accepted in previous workplaces. And so he and I talked early on, and I said, well, what you're looking for is not a job, but you're looking for a good boss. And he agreed, and that was an insight for him, right? And he's in IT, and very skilled, been in IT for 20 plus years. So it was never a question of, can you do this job or can't you do this job? Or do the ISO 7-layer model or, some other dumb thing. All that's done. His issue is he wasn't sure that he wanted to work for a particular company or size company or whatever. There was no motivation to actually go for a particular job. And I said, well, then why don't you stop asking for a job and start asking for a boss, right? Start networking and asking for the right person. And we talked about how to do that. Tell me about a time when you had a great boss. What did that look like? How well did you like him? Good. Do you know who's anybody like that now? Because I'd like to be introduced to him, right? And he thought that was good, but he hasn't done it. He still just strictly applied online. So this was several months later, and we're talking today. And so I started, one of the approaches that I take in coaching is using questions to lead to discovery, not starting with answers and assumptions of how the process works. So I started in with questions, and it led to a really interesting place. I was asking him, how's it going? What's not working, and so on. And it came down to one of the things that he started talking about was a lack of customer service in IT. And you probably guys have experienced this whenever you called the help desk, right? See, you know what I mean, right? What's your name? What's your social? What's your employee ID number? Well, but see, my problem is, hold on, wait, have you rebooted? It's like, look, all I wanted was, well, they're following a process, not making a connection. And so he's been talking about how he used to train people actually in customer service or, good responsiveness. And I suggested to him, I'm like, well, why don't you just said you teach that. Why don't you teach that? Well, yes, but they had an expert come in from England, and she gave this presentation, and it was a great hit. So they would always ask for the expert. And I said, okay, well, I invite you to notice that you are the expert because you're the IT customer service expert. She's the customer service expert, but you're the IT customer service expert. And his aha moment was when I said, it's not that you're not just IT anymore, but you're IT and customer service, and nobody is that. It's not we're going to take away this and replace the fact that you're no longer IT. You're just going to be a customer service person. You're going to be the IT customer service expert. And it was that together that he hadn't thought of, right? And so my point is it was the philosophy of the new perspective that helped him change his thinking and change his motivation. Now, there's going to be some follow-up like, okay, well, where exactly do IT customer service experts go to network, right? And I suggested he try the customer service support group, the professional association, as a starting point, because nobody in there is going to be the IT customer service person. right? He's going to be unique, and he's the qualified expert for that. So it helped him, but my point is his problem wasn't that he wasn't networking per se, right? His problem wasn't that he doesn't have a good resume or doesn't know how to interview or, you know, any tactical skill. His problem was that he didn't have the right outlook or the right perspective that helped him move forward. And so my point being is I've seen that a lot with veterans as well. I don't know, maybe some of you guys have seen this as well, is sometimes it manifests in a I don't want to say insist, but I expect that when I apply to a job online, I should get a response back. And it's like, you know, nobody promised you a rose garden, right? That's kind of what I want to say, right? But in fact, if I did that in the military, if I sent a response to something in the military, generally there's an expectation that, yeah, I'm going to get a response back, right? An acknowledgement of some kind as a general common courtesy. That's a cultural point, right? Well, you know, then of course you sit there and say, well, yes, but this is a computer and therefore you'll never get a response from a computer, really. You know, like feedback as to why you didn't perform, right? The computer doesn't know and care, right? Just, yep, thank you, we're going with somebody else. Well, then that ties into another thing that I've seen. Go ahead, did somebody want to say something? Okay, feel free to jump in if you have feedback. The other thing that I've seen is a perspective that sometimes doing anything other than applying online, like networking or something like that, or using your friend network, could be seen as cheating to get ahead. And so cheating, you know, that's definitely unseemly in the military, right? Because you don't cheat your way to a rank. That's just not possible. So why would you cheat your way to a job, right? But again, that's a perspective necessarily that doesn't hold. And when I meet with them, I have to explain to them, okay, you wouldn't cheat to get rank, but you would, quote, cheat to get stuff done. You would use relationships to get stuff done. So that's the same way here, but the reverse is also true in that you couldn't lose your job in the Army or the military, but you certainly can lose it through no fault of your own out here. So in order to maintain your job, you have to cheat to build relationships. You might as well start that now, right? And so my point being is there's a lot of philosophies and expectations that veterans bring to the job search that can sometimes get in their way. And so what I've learned to do is if they're not doing something, I try to look behind the reason and find the philosophy behind it. So, you know, as I said, an example of a philosophy might be, I believe that that's cheating, or I believe that I should look for an IT job, or I believe that I should get a response back when I send in an application without having to actually network for it, right? Like the computer should respond back. And so those are examples of beliefs that drive a behavior, or sometimes beliefs that stop a behavior, right? Well, you should network more. Nope. But they don't even know that there's a belief operating in background that's telling them don't do that. And so, you know, I just noticed that sometimes when I help explore their beliefs in a coaching mode, they're better able to find a breakthrough than if I just said, well, you need to network more, read the 20-minute networking book, and let's do a mock networking session. It doesn't matter if they don't believe that networking is the way it works. So those are some of the things that I've been working on in background, and I wanted to share them with you as for yourselves as a new perspective in working with veterans, as a way to you know, challenge their beliefs, but also challenge your own, right? It's a pretty self-instructive exercise to go through and say, what are my beliefs that are limiting me from a certain action or behavior, or causing one? And it's real interesting self-reflection to do that. So I'm going to take a pause because I've been talking a lot. I want to get some feedback. is there questions on what is a philosophy, or is there examples in your own life that you have that this is sparking, or people that you've worked with? So I want to go ahead and open it up. I see everybody's got the red mics on, so please go off mute and give some feedback as to what this is for you.
You know, it's interesting because you spend all that time in the military, and you're taught to be self-sufficient, to be, take care of the mission, that you can kind of do anything with either teamwork or yourself. And sometimes some of that's absolutely true. Some of that's kind of a bit of motivational speaking. And the problem is that sometimes we start to internalize that external message. I know for my own transition, it took me a while, partly because I wanted to try to figure it out on my own, and I thought I could figure it out on my own, and then I realized that it's really taking me a long time to figure it out on my own. And also I think it takes some time. It takes about a certain amount of humility, and you gain humility usually when you realize that there's a lot of things that you don't know. And some of us can walk right into a situation and realize that we just don't know this, and others of us walk into this and say, I may not know, but I can figure it out. And only by kind of repetitively not achieving the results that we're looking for do we start to get that light bulb moment to realize I really don't know this, and I really need help, and I have to be a lot more humble than I've been, because there's kind of different levels of humble. There's humble between saying, well, I probably don't know this, but I can figure it out. And there's the humble of, I really don't know this, and I need help figuring it out. And I think there's a distinguishment or discernment between those two sides.
Yeah, great feedback. Thank you, Mike.
Also, one thing is in the military, you have structure. When you go through a transition, like I'm going through transition right now, there is no structure. You have to make your own structure. And sometimes people have their self-fulfilling prophecies and defeatist attitudes already when they're transitioning, or they're overconfident. Like, okay, I've been an officer in the Navy or whatever. I should get a senior management position. No, guess what, Bill? You're going to be, packing boxes somewhere. You're going to be working for the 25-year-old who's been working here since he's 18. Congratulations.
Yep.
But that's some other things too that I've noticed in talking to other veterans going through transition is they expect certain things. Well, and then I have to bring them back to what I call the real world. This is my second transition, so I remember my first one, and it, so.
Thank you very much, Jeremy.
Mm-hmm.
Other reflections or comments? I know some of you came in halfway through the soliloquy there. So the point was philosophies that drive our behavior. Go ahead, Renee.
Yeah, I think you were right about people seem to see themselves as a job title. Well, this is what I do. Well, look at it in a little bit different way. Like you said, the IT plus the customer service.
Yeah.
It's a job title. You're a set of skills and talents and attributes and knowledge. And I think sometimes people need help to kind of wiggle through, okay, what is my niche? I see that as a niche where you have the IT and the customer service. That's not that common. And helping people kind of winnow through my job title, all my knowledge, is I think is key to helping them bust past that, all of a sudden I've gotten to this point because this is what I do and I'm applying for jobs and yet nothing's happening. So I think that was a really good point.
Thank you, Renee.
I was just thinking about what Jeremy and Renee both said. And so I've got a couple friends that are active duty right now, and they're getting ready to transition in the next.
Wait, I'm sorry. You have friends?
Well, they're Facebook friends, and they mute me a lot, but I still can see them. So
is that like 90 Day Fiance or whatever? Not sure.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So
go ahead.
anyways, I'm going to ignore that self-esteem boost that you guys are all giving me. But I have several friends that are active duty, and I can see a lot of what I was going through in them, you know, and if you think about it, we're taught to be confident, even if you don't know for sure, just attack aggressively and you know, and you're going to win. And in real life, that doesn't always work. And I can see that them saying, well, people are going to demand me because I have soft skills. I have better soft skills than you. You know, and I'm technical. I don't program technical because I'm more technical than him, you know, and there's all these different comparisons, and what they don't even realize they're doing is that the group that they're comparing themselves with are all military people.
Yeah.
So it's not, they don't want to jump into a whole nother group where they've had generally no comparison. You know, they may say, well, my wife's a civilian, so therefore I know everything about being a civilian too, you know. And so there's a lot of process. It's a bigger transition, especially coming, depending how long you've been active duty, than people even realize, because you've institutionalized so many different concepts about yourself and about the community that you're a part of. It takes a while to deconstruct that.
Well, and deconstructing, I think, is the key. You got to deconstruct your personality at some level.
Amen. And also, one thing you got to look at is, I've had people like, I'm an electronics technician, so all the guys that work for me, they like, I should just go work electronics. So we like, are you sure you want to do that? Is this what you really want to do when you grow up and have to get a real job? So I write down all their skills that they have, right? So their soft skills, hard skills, you know, analytical or whatever. I'm like, you could actually do this other job too. That's not electronics. So use your KSAs to help people find another niche.
Yep. Look at what else they can bring.
I use my degree right there. Yes.
Yes. I like it. Nicole, any feedback on the philosophy of people?
I definitely joined a little bit late,
Yep.
But I really liked what Renee had said of just like titles. And that's something that I see a lot, especially like trying to figure out how to translate that into a lot of enterprise environments. So when I think it's really great when I'm working with individuals that aren't necessarily married to a title, but are truly open and care more about like the day-to-day and how they're going to be using their skills to make an impact, as opposed to needing manager, director, or whatnot in that specific title to even consider an opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else have any feedback or comments so far? Yeah.
This is Mike too. So I had, when you were talking about the philosophy and the failure to launch and challenging their beliefs by asking them questions, that's something I haven't done, but I can see that where, you know, you can tell people, oh, you need to network, you need to do this, just applying won't work, telling them all this stuff. They might not want to hear that, and you just get both frustrated that way. And when I'm doing all these applications, but I'm not making progress. So if you start, you know, asking those questions, what's working, how's that working for you? And they say, well, that's not working very well. Well, have you tried this? And they say, well, not so much for practice. And then just kind of, like you say, get them to self-realize what's going to work best. And then I think just seeing people coming to these meetings and the monthly meetings and landing and telling their stories, how they network and how they got their job, you know, I think that might help too. But this will help me when I want to start talking with people and get them to figure that out.
Thank you. Anyone else have comments or feedbacks?
Yeah, I think
Mike,
Alan,
Mike, can we get a mic check from you?
What?
Mike, can we get a mic check from you?
Yeah, is that any better? Don't know
Roger, Dodger.
helped block the dumb things I was saying. So
Go ahead.
What I was going to say, Alan, is it's one of those things too where it kind of goes twofold from what I've noticed on our front. We as military veterans are really keen on our language. We all know what we're talking about when we say certain things, and we just assume people know what the heck we're saying. But then there's the other side of the coin too, where I put it back on the employers a little bit too. If you're going to look at hiring veterans and have that as an initiative, you need to do your homework too. Now, I'm not saying you have to learn our language, but you kind of got to know who you're operating with and what they bring to the table and how they conduct themselves. And Adam Marika always talks about it, and I love the aspect that we as military veterans have the hardest time talking about ourselves. It's always we or the platoon or the fire team and those things. And it's really hard to kind of put ourselves on a pedestal. But when we do, what do? You know, I'm worth $25 an hour and screw you if you don't think so, you know, and stuff like that. But so we have to walk our own ropes too, but I still put a lot of it back on the employers, and it's something I've always hammered on them for as well. If you say you're vet friendly, good for you for your PR.
Yeah.
Be vet ready and figure out what that means to you and how that means to you. How are you going to go about going after these veteran populations? How are you going to work with them? And once they're in the door, what are you going to utilize them for? Vet friendly to me is just a good bumper sticker to make everybody feel good about stuff. And I'm sure I'll catch some heat for that, but that's just where I'm at with it. I've seen it, and it's quite frankly, that's what I challenge everybody with all the time. Vet friendly or vet ready? Which one are you? Can't be both.
Well, I'm going to speak about that in the second portion of this, actually, a little bit more. So thank you for bringing that up. That's a great context. Brittany, did you have something you wanted to add?
I did. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Brittany.
So I actually, sorry I'm late. This is literally my last day in uniform today as I start leave on Monday. And so that's why I was late. And, you know, I'm jumping right in. Yeah, heck yeah. So, but and I'll save the one question towards the end. I know I've been a little bit overzealous. I think, in fact, I've had to turn down some opportunities maybe just because it's been too soon. I wasn't expecting to get as many phone calls and appointments that I'm having now lined up already. So I was ill prepared on a job that I applied for that I wanted, that Alan had helped me so hard with my resume, and Michelle. And so the one question that I'm getting, because I'm HR, just so all you know my background, the only little tiny advantage that I have is that I slacked off and did college on and off for 20 years and finally just graduated about 3 years ago with my HR degree. So I knew a little bit of the language and the different departments of HR, but I still don't know when they say, what's your favorite part of HR? Because we do all of it. And so that's a part that I'm stumbling on. And I do try to look back and think of the departments that I do like. You know, I'm not a big Nugger fan. I've been in charge of a section, you know, like Ryan said, you know, I prefer just to lead the people, not necessarily be the doer, just I haven't done that in 12 years. So that is one thing that find out exactly what you like to do in that department. HR just happens to be the worst one, where there's so many departments in every civilian organization. So I don't want to apply for the wrong job and then end up doing something that I have no idea that I liked, which obviously it's going to happen. But is that kind of help answer or put that,
it's a great
that
perspective.
question there? Because I don't know still.
So go ahead, Scott. Did you want to say something?
I've got a question. Brittany, you said that you prefer to be the kind of the supervisor and not the doer. And everybody here kind of knows, you know, section heads and this and that. But have you researched and translated that into what it means in the civilian world? And
yes,
not,
I
not
definitely,
positions, but how you talk to somebody about it.
Right. Instead of, and you know, like you guys said, we expect to be, you know, the CEO of every place we go to. And I actually don't want to be that.
Well,
doing a job that I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
Oh, and so that is a big one too, because like you said, being the doer and the manager, yes, I want to be an HR manager, but at the same time, I can't expect to go in there not knowing anything about the job. And I've actually told everybody that I've talked to on the phone so far that I'm okay with, I understand that I'm not going to start out, you know, as the manager. I'm okay doing that. Oh, sorry. Not necessarily entry level, but, you know, because I don't want to do entry level, but I also, I don't know, it's hard to, you know, the middle management. I don't even know what the terminology is, but yeah, and most of the positions that I've talked to, not, you know, it's either, almost all of them have said, no, you're not going to come in here as, you know, the HR director, which I obviously know that, but where, I don't know, I guess I don't even know how to answer that. I'm overwhelmed because I actually have had 2 phone calls today too, even. Sure. I'm excited about it, but I don't, yeah, I don't think I'm asking the right questions. Well, what I do want.
I'm glad you're here because we can actually help you with a one-on-one session or a breakout session in a few minutes to actually drive through some of that question with somebody. So as you're looking through the people that are here, be picking somebody that you might want to sit into a breakout session with and work through some of that tonight, because that's what we're here to offer. So thank you for bringing that up. The final point I want to circle back to, and I think it was Ryan that mentioned it about the companies, right, being veteran ready, right? I think the other piece to this is there's a philosophy in companies or in civilian working, right, or a certain belief system of what the expectations are in the workplace that are similar but different, right? So like, we're all a team. Really? So does that mean I can count on you if I get in jail? Wait, what? No. Right? Oh, so you're not a team. No, we didn't say that, right? So there's this kind of mismatched expectations or belief systems in the civilian workplace. And my point being is as I see it, right, part of being veteran ready is taking an assessment on both sides of what are my beliefs and expectations in the job search or in the candidate selection process, right? So, sometimes companies might, this one I see a lot, right, is, people keep getting, quote unquote, dumped on for more work and more work and more work and more work. And if you never say anything back, right, well, then that just means you didn't get enough work, right? Clearly we can, keep dumping, right? My wife is going through this right now because she won't challenge back at all. And when in reality, right, challenging back is a way to test for validity of the work. Now, you might never need to do that in the military because, hey, we would never sit around and do things that are redundant, right? Nor would you really have the opportunity, would the pushback actually make a change? Like, well, yeah, no, raking leaves is irrelevant and redundant, but guess what we're doing today? You're raking leaves, that's just going to be how it's going to be, right? But in the civilian sector, it can sometimes be a way to validate the need, right? Like, is this really a priority need over the other work that I'm doing? Like, if I had to choose between completing this task and this task, I should drop that and do this new task for you. Is that what you're saying? No. Okay, well, then it's not really a priority, right? And then the only reason you do that is because, and I'm going to say this in what sounds like a negative way, but it's a truthful statement, is in the civilian sector, you have to look out for number one without always looking like you're looking out for number one, right? But if you did that in the military, wow, you're looking out for number one? You're not part of our team, right? There's just, you don't come equipped with the philosophy or the skill sets to be ready for extra work in a workplace. But because they don't have the same belief system of, I need to care for you like my own son or daughter, right? Like when you go home at night, I have no concept of who you are or where you are or what you're doing, and I don't want to know. Whereas in the military, we're all going out drinking together, or we're all going out together to do a volunteering, or we're all going, we're going to engage together 24/7. And so there's an expectation mismatch of what team leadership, backing up, all these things really mean and how they relate to work. And so my point being is our philosophies sometimes get in the way of what we should or shouldn't be doing. And having an awareness of it is the first fight, if you will, right? Like, what blind spots do I bring to the workplace, and what blind spots are my employers bringing to the workplace? And the reason it's helpful to have that assessment is because once you have awareness, you can develop a plan and strategy towards it. Or in the case of some of the coaches here, right, helps a job seeker develop a plan and strategy towards it. So it isn't just the philosophy holding an employer back or the philosophy holding a job seeker back. It's like, I see this gap where employers say, oh man, gosh, we can't find good employees, or we don't speak veteran and we don't know where to find them. And then we have veterans who are saying, nobody ever responds back to a job. Okay, well, your expectations that they should respond to a posting, that you should get a response from a human response from a computer, versus maybe you need to look beyond your computer applications and like Nicole's doing, network in a veteran group, right? like you were saying, Ryan, be veteran ready, not just veteran friendly, right? So it's an understanding that the middle ground is where you have to coach people towards. And I've written an ebook on this, short 13-page thing, and I'm going to post it in chat. I wrote it when I was at the Workforce Center, so the conclusions are pretty well irrelevant now because that was over 10 years ago. But the summary points of the different culture expectations, I think, might help. And so if you're working with somebody or working with yourself, or trying to figure out a corporate culture, I think these might help you guys. So I shared that with you in the chat session. Is there any final reflections or thoughts or good feedback that you guys want to share? Sorry, I sprung that one on you. We'll give a moment. Wow, I silenced the crowd. Look at that. That's awesome. I am such a great speaker. No, I appreciate you hanging there with me. If there's any other final comments, I want to let you get a moment to reflect on it. Otherwise, I'm about to pause the recording so that it doesn't continue on. All right, wonderful. Well, I'm going to pause the recording, and then we will go to our next section.